Well, good morning. Today's project's going to be to install a Ryco Moto turn signal kit in the Can-Am Maverick Trail. I had the choice, the two that I looked at really closely were the Ryco and the Corbin. Both of them looked online like they offered some really nice features and would probably do the job real well. But I wanted a turn signal stock pretty badly. My hand automatically goes to the turn signal every time I come to an intersection, so I kind of didn't want to fight that urge. And it's got some nice features. This thing we'll get up a little closer here. It obviously is a signal. It has four-way flashers. Yeah, doing that cancels the flasher. It's got a horn button to it, so it'd be nice to have all of them on the one stock. It's actually surprisingly heavy. It's not plastic. It must be either pot metal or aluminum. It may well be pot metal, as heavy as it is. But the connectors look like they're pretty good quality. They're all labeled real clearly and everything, so that's why I ended up going with the Ryco. Like I say, I really wanted the turn signal stock. One of my main concerns with it, though, is it going to be too close to the steering wheel, and am I going to be bumping my hands into it all the time? We'll check that out pretty soon. So the instructions that come with the kit, I hope I've got the camera framed correctly, but the instructions seem to be fairly complete. I think I'm going to be happy with them. It's actually going to be a little bit bigger job than I anticipated. I used to install police and fire radios for a living, and when I was a kid I did CB radios and car stereos while I was going through tech school. And this seems to be a fairly large job. I was never intimidated by a cop car radio or any electronics in a cop car, but maybe it's just my advancing age, but this looks like it's going to be quite a project. The only negative comment that I have is the pictures that they give to help you guide along are fairly small and fairly dark. Let's see if the camera stays in focus about that close. They're fairly small and fairly close. I just emailed them to ask to see if maybe they've got the photographs online in a larger size, larger resolution. But I think I'll get along okay. A couple of the features that I see that I really wasn't aware of, I don't think, by reading their literature. This is an electronic flasher, and it has a timer in it, so the signals will cancel themselves automatically. I have no idea if it's 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a full minute. I have no idea how quickly they cancel, but I think that's a pretty nice feature. I know on some of the motorcycles I've got several of them, and some of them are self-canceling just from going around a corner, and others I have to cancel automatically, or with my thumb rather. And the ones that are manual, on occasion I'll end up driving a little too far with the signals flashing. So that's a nice feature. Even though I've already got a horn in it, it comes with a horn. It comes with a license plate light, a little LED, with the bracket and all that for the license. And the reason I'm doing the signals is I put the upper doors on not too long ago. In fact, let's turn the camera around. I put the upper doors on not too long ago, and you have to unzip the things to get your hand out to do any signaling, and if you unzip them and fold them back and forth too many times, creates a crease in the plastic, and it's just not handy at all. So now that I have the upper doors on it, I really needed to get the signals on so I could be a little more responsible about signaling my turns. So anyway, what else do we have here? Let's turn around again and have a look. That probably ought to be good. So one thing I was concerned about was the intensity of the signals. I know I've seen a lot of signals on UTVs before that were very dim, and you couldn't see them for more than, you know, maybe 100 foot away or something like that on a bright day. They've assured me that these are pretty darn bright, and I'll have to take their word for it. It's certainly not a cheap kit. These things look really well made. They're very well sealed. Everything looks pretty top quality, so I'm happy with all that. A lot of little different bits for wiring and whatnot, but the second part of my project here is that while the instructions don't say so, I'm going to pull both of the fenders off the Maverick, and I'm going to do a seal job on the cab. I keep getting cold drafts up along the knee and stuff, and I've looked up in the wheel wells before, and without pulling the fenders off, it's pretty hard to get it all sealed up. So I'm going to try and do a better quality job of sealing the cab than I've tried before. So anyway, with that, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to start, but I'll look at the manual a little more, and we'll start the video at the next step. Perhaps the first step will be to see how does this stock really fit, and how much room will I have for my hand near the steering wheel. We'll check that out first thing. Okay, I wanted to give you an idea about my comment on the photographs in the instructions being a little small and a little dark. I emailed them and I got a response back within minutes. They sent me the PDF that the manual is printed from, and now I'm able to blow that picture right there. Yeah, you can see how small that is. So now with the actual PDF, I can blow it up that large, and now I can see a lot more detail, and I think that's going to make following the instructions and looking at the photographs a lot easier. So thought you'd like to see that. Just a quick email to them will get you a PDF version of it that you can blow everything up real big. Okay, my first comment on this, after trying to install the signal stock on the steering wheel column, is that this rubber trim piece right here is too long for the size of shaft that we have on the Maverick trail, and as I got to tightening it up, it actually sucked the rubber up inside the screw and was interfering with getting things torqued down, and the rubber would bunch up. So I'm going to have to trim a little bit of that off and see if I have better luck. And if the factory guys are looking at this, yes, I did keep that rubber all the way around to the other side, and it was just too long. So I'm going to trim a little piece off of it, and we'll see if I have better luck getting the stock onto the steering wheel column. Okay, this may not work out at all. I've got the turn signal stock on the steering column. It's rotated as far clockwise as I can get it, and you can probably see it's touching the instrument bracket or the display bracket already, so I can't push it up any farther. And let me climb in and I'll show you what happens. Okay, with the door closed, my foot on the footrest, my knee pushes right on the darn thing. I don't think that's going to work out. I'm going to send them a couple of pictures. I may well have to tell them that I want to send it back. And yeah, if you shift into the left turn signal, it's hard to hold the light and do this at the same time. Maybe that'll kind of work out. So the stock is rotated all the way clockwise as far as I can get it, and yeah, that's right in my knee. If I put my knee on the floor, it just barely, well, not the floor, but kind of under the pedals. But where you're supposed to have it on the footrest, boy, it is just right there. That, in fact, maybe I'll send them this video and see what they say. But yeah, that's just not going to work out. That's kind of a hazard. I'm either going to break the turn signal switch or bruise my knee. That's not good. So this may be the shortest installation video I've made, but at least I've given it an attempt. So excuse me. Thanks for watching. Okay, I got nearly an immediate response from Ryco. They are a good company. They pretty much immediately volunteered to build a new bracket for me. They say they've sold over 200 of these things for the Maverick Trail already, and nobody had complained. So I kind of got re-inspired after talking to the guy. Again, very, very nice gentleman. He was very responsive and, said, if you want to send it back, we've got no problem with that. Go ahead and do that. But if you want me to make a custom bracket for you, he'd do that too. So I was so impressed with that I came back out and started looking again to see what I might be able to do. In any case, here's my solution right here. Let's see if we can get a picture of that. See, I had to lift the instrument bracket. There's the instrument cluster. It sits on an instrument bracket. Right, so you can see I've put 5 1/4 inch washers underneath the bracket. I'll replace those in a little bit, either with some nylon spacers or pillow blocks or some such thing to make it a more finished look. It does not interfere with me being able to see the display. That works out just fine. And now I can have the signal unit, can have it all the way up and parallel with the bracket for that instrument cluster. And you can see over here, it looks like I've got plenty of knee room now, so I'm not concerned. I'm going to go ahead with the project. I think everything's going to work out just fine. And yeah, I think I'm going to like this, so we'll continue on with the project. Okay, the next step here is just to plug in the flasher relay. That's the flasher relay there. Let's see, what was this one? They're all labeled very nicely and color coded. That's power and horn. And this one over here is the brake interface harness. So the next step is just to plug these in and get them all loomed up where you want them and wire tied down. So now I remember why I kind of looked at this and dreaded it. I hate working under the dash of this thing. I wish there was a way I could get to it from outside. Anyway, so I'm gonna loom them up now. Okay, next step is to install the horn. I already have a horn installed down here. The instructions show to mount the horn facing down and over in this hole, but since my horn's already there, I don't see any problem with just putting that one hole over right there. So we'll see if we can get that tightened down. A little bit clumsy to get wrenches and whatnot in, but that's okay. Nope, I'm on it. Hopefully I'll end up with dual horns here. So I'm not quite sure if I see a relay in the package for the horns. I really think a horn ought to have a relay, because they're not a huge load, but the make and break contact in here causes a lot of electrical spikes and what they call counter EMF from the coil, or counter EMF or flyback. So those spikes can be pretty big and burn switches up pretty easily. So if it doesn't have a relay, I may grab one and put a horn relay in it. So let's see if we can get this tightened down, keep it square. And there. That's where the horn's going to go. If I can get my wrench out. Okay, this isn't in the manual. You don't have to do this unless you want to. But since I wanted to take the opportunity to seal the cab up anyway, I'm going to pull the fenders off. I've had them off before. I remember it's kind of a bugger, I think, especially to get a screw that's under here. But I'll try and show you where all the screws are. Obviously, there's 3 on top. We'll start with those, and then we'll move on to the others. You don't need to see this part, I guess. It's just a screw. If I remember correctly, both of these screws have to come out. So we'll just pop those out real quickly. When you spot an extra long screw, do your best to remember where it went, and that'll save you a lot of problem when you reassemble things. So, yeah, it looks like that's an extra long screw there. Oh, real long screw. So remember, long screw down here in the bottom. Okay, I suppose if you're young and nimble, you can get your head up under here to see where all the different screws and whatnot are. But I can remember that it was a pain in the butt, especially one of these front screws up here, just barely get your tool in. But being an old guy that's not very limber anymore, I've got it jacked up. I'm going to pull the wheels off so that I can get my head up in there a little more easily to have a look. So it's up on jack stands. It's secure. So let's pull the wheels off, and it'll be a lot easier that way. That makes it easy. Yeah, again, this is optional. I think I explained it in the clip before this, that part of my goal for all this was to be able to seal a cab up, and that's really why I'm taking off the fenders. So yeah, I'm tired of cold air blowing on my knees where everything else stays nice and toasty warm. So this is optional. You don't have to do this in order to wire the horn or the signals in, but I think it's going to make it a lot easier, and it'll give me a little better inspection too, both having the wheels off and having the fenders off. Okay, now that I have the wheel off, I can get my head up under the wheel well and have a good look. There is another screw right in here. I'll get down and we'll see if we can find it from the inside. It's the one that's the biggest booger, if I remember right. There we go. So that's the little plate underneath the headlights right here. So out on the fender, there's another bolt right up inside there, and that's a booger to get out. You just about have to have a wobble socket with your Torx on the end of it. And I think there might have been one more, but I'll get that one out first. And okay, there was not a bolt to the rear like I thought I remembered. And that bolt that's up inside that is real close to the headlight assembly, it wasn't as bad as I remembered either. So it's pretty loose right now. And let's see, what's holding it up? There we go. Okay, fender's out. So now you can kind of see where I've tried to stuff paper up in these body panels in order to seal up some of the leaks. And boy, you can see the dirt too. Maybe I'll put the wheels back on it, push it out, and hose it off some more. Okay, anyway, you can see now it's going to be a lot easier to look everything over, and maybe to run wiring up to the horns. And it's really not too big of a deal. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a rubber boot down there that all the wiring comes out of. Can we see that? Let's see. Real hard to see, but there's a rubber boot that all the wiring comes out of. There's a couple of runs of wire you can see over the radiator shroud there that that already come up for the horn, and I'm not sure what else, but I'll probably just follow that same route down. The other thing I'm thinking too, this will make it a lot easier to do a headlight adjust. So that one there is pretty obviously for up and down, and then the other adjust is over down underneath the frame there. So that would make it a heck of a lot easier. I can actually stand up and adjust the headlights now. Maybe that'll be some help. So anyway, I'm going to pull the other one off. Okay, here's a little correction for you. You do not need to pull that screw out right there. That's the real long one. Don't need to pull that out. So there's one up inside that sandwiches between these two pieces, between the headlight and the front plastic, the grill. So there's a screw right in there to pull out, and then all the rest of them were up on top, and that one right there, that's all you got to pull. So, and then the sides, they just clip. See, oh, you don't have enough light to see that, but there's a clip right there, so the side of the panel just clips in. There's no screw to hold the rear part of it. Okay, so now we're going to run the horn wiring out to the horn. I'm going to get this unspooled a little. The directions tell me to tie all this stuff up before I do this, but I'm not going to do that. I want to know where everything goes and get it in the right place before I tie anything in. Otherwise I'll end up just cutting it back out to neaten it up. But I was telling you a little earlier where there's a boot that comes outside. Oh God, I hate getting up in here. Where'd that little boot go? Let's see, can we see that? Yeah, see all the wiring up there? It's right above the steering column. God, can't hardly get my hands up there. But so we're gonna push the wire out that rubber boot if we can. Come on, going out. Did it go out? I can't hardly get my hands up there. But anyway, I think you get the idea maybe where that boot is now. Again, it's right above the steering column. Where'd it go? Heck, I can't see anything myself. But we'll go out and see if that wire came out of the boot yet. Okay, so I've got the wire fished through the boot. That wire comes out of the rubber down here. Where'd it go? There's the horn wire. Let's see. And yeah, we'll just follow this other wiring up and get it over in the right place. We'll just follow the other wiring up and see. So that's where that's going to go. And I guess in order to power my other horn up, see, I've got a horn down there, and then this is the new horn up here. I think I'll just leave it wired the way it is for right now and not tie the two together, but once I have successful completion, I'll probably tie the two horns together. So that's the way the horn goes. The horns should be marked plus and minus. It really doesn't matter because it's just an isolated coil in it. I'll look at the directions and see, but yeah, the horn should be isolated from the chassis anyway. So we'll plug it in like that, then I'll go look at the manual that came with it. So there's the horn. I just got to get it wire tied in and trimmed out. So there you go. Okay, now I have to install a tap into the brake light lighting wire. The instructions tell me that for 2018 Maverick trails, we have to pull the guard off of the brake master cylinder down here. Oop, let me get some light on it. So there's the guard there. There's a couple of the push pin kind of keepers on it, connectors on it, and then there's one wire tie that I need to cut, but I've got to get that guard off. Yeah, really hard to get the good light on this. Got to pull that guard off of the master cylinder in order to get to the wiring there. Okay, so I've pulled the master cylinder guard off, and I've got to take this connector apart. I had to pull this down. It's fastened up above. It's kind of a booger to get off, but in order to get that connector apart to do some testing, I have to take that apart. They've also got this thing wire tied, so of course the way you get this connector apart, the little tab to push is underneath that wire. So next task is to get that wire, that connector apart, so I can tell which wire is hot only when you step on the brake lights or on the brake pedal. So that's the next task. Okay, this is kind of interesting. The instructions want me to identify which of the wires or conductors from the stoplight switch actually go to the stoplights and are not the source wire of the 12 volts. So I've got my voltmeter set up right now with a good ground. I'm using the pin on or the bolt on the master cylinder for a ground, and the two wire colors are red and orange green. And the orange green, I would typically think, in fact the instructions state that the orange green should be the wires that go to the tail lights, but I'm plugged into that orange green right now, and you can see I've got 12 volts hot on it. So evidently the red wire is off to the tail lights and not the source for the tail lights. It's after the switch. Backwards from what I expected, and it's backwards from the manual, but I think that's probably why the manual tells you to check it to make sure. They have said that they've used different colors in the past, so Can-Am evidently swaps their colors around from time to time, but red ought to be constant hot, not the orange green. So we'll think about this for a minute first. Okay, so now I've stuffed the brake light lead up through that rubber boot that we talked about earlier. There's the boot back here, and that's the brake light lead there. And I guess I'll run that lead down through and follow the brake hoses, the reservoir lines. That looks like the cleanest way to do it. It's not the way the original wiring went, but I can't even see where that original wire goes. You'll notice that I did put a tap. These are the taps right here that, in order to tap in, it's kind of like the old Scotch lock, a little bit different in that you can actually push a connector into them. They are the type that kind of pierces the insulation on the wire and grips the wire itself to make contact. And I loaded it up with dielectric grease. We'll see if that keeps it dry. So next thing's to get my wire routed correctly and plug it in and get it all taped back up and put up where it belongs. Okay, I'm tapped into the wire that is not hot unless the brake light is applied, you know, the brake pedal pushed, and it's run back up inside and is connected to the harness that came with it. So I'm done out here. I can put the cover back on the master cylinder now. Okay, I'm back again. I'm working on installing the front turn signal lights, and I'm not too sure that I'm real happy with what's going on with them. The front turn signals for the Maverick Trail, it doesn't appear that there's any other place other than along this line right here. Let's back up a little so you can see where that is. In some of the others, the X3s and whatnot, there's actually room along here that you know, gives you a little wider stance for the signals. In fact, I think this is only 17 inches between here and here, and I'm kind of wondering what the minimum separation is under our CW for the minimum separation for signals on something like this. I think I've read something in the code about it, but it might have just been applicable to motorcycles or whatnot. The other thing that I'm concerned about is that the angle that they're going to sit at. They will sit at, what is that, about a 30-degree angle from straight out. I'm hoping that the LEDs that they've given me have a really wide angle of dispersion. So in order to do this, of course, you run the plug up through the rubber boot down there, and then you route the wire the way you want it. Excuse me, you route the wire out and along. See, I ended up having to take the bumper off. There's no way to drill here real elegantly with that bumper in the way. And that bumper will interfere with the vision of the signals a little bit, so I'm curious how that's going to work out. I kind of think maybe a motorcycle signal that was bolted to the plastic here that sticks out might have been a better solution rather than these LEDs. So anyway, the next step is going to be to actually drill the holes for the signals. Again, I can't figure out any better place to put them, so I've got to do what the manufacturer's recommended. So I've put a couple of pieces of Scotch tape over the plastic there because you can't hardly see a pencil or a pen marking on the black plastic. So I've got a little more work to do there to get them precise the way I want them. When you drill these, be really careful because the radiator's not too far behind. And let's see, what other comments did I have? Oh, actually taking the fenders off was well worth the time, because you got to be able to stick your hands down in there and work things around the way you want. Taking the tires off in order to get to the brake light switch, which is underneath the cover down here. In order to get to that brake light switch, you've got to get back up in there, and the wires are very short, so you don't have a lot of room to work with. So putting the thing on jack stands and pulling the wheels off, I think, was a good investment in time too. In fact, I probably should have started out by pulling the fenders off and then cleaning all this up real good. There's a lot of mud that's accumulated in the corners and whatnot. I still intend to clean it up, but yeah, and there's my little light bar. That, of course, had to come off of the bumper in order to get the bumper off. But the next step is going to be to finish marking where the LEDs go and to get the LEDs mounted. So I'll do a little more work and check back in with you. Okay, I've measured everything 6 different times. Symmetry is really important to me. I've got them spaced 1.25 inches apart. That's one of the manufacturer's recommendations. When I go to drill these things, I'm going to pilot it with a really small drill bit. But when you drill, if you don't hold the drill exactly in the same position and angle, the drill will wander. A drill bit by hand like this always wanders one way or another. Make sure you do it exactly the same on all holes, or they'll wander a different direction. So let me get... Remember, what was I going to say? Oh, the radiator's right behind it, so boy, you'd want to be careful. In fact, I'm going to put the camera down and use 2 hands. Okay, Let's see, here we go. We'll try and hold it as level and as square as we can. And I'm right in the crosshairs. I think that looks pretty good. One pilot hole. Putting the tape on there and marking the tape was a really good idea. Yep. 2 pilot holes. Trying to be as precise as I can. 3 pilot holes. Then we'll go over to the other side and do the other side this exact same way. 1, 2, 3 pilot holes. Now they say to use a 3/4 inch step bit. I think I've got one, so I'll go see if I can find that 3/4 inch step bit. Yeah, this is probably going to kill somebody to see. I don't have a step bit that's short enough to get to 3/4 inch before I get too far back in there. So I'm going to try an old wood bit. That one wobbles a little. Let's see how it drills. I think that's going to work out. Again, be real careful of the radiator. I'm just going to go slow and easy. I think I'm close. Yeah, there's one. Getting close. Don't push it through the radiator. 2. Three. And they actually look pretty clean. So let's pull the tape off. But then the next step is to grab the LEDs and push the rubber grommets back. Well, let's see how well this is going to work out for me. Now we got to get those lights through, all the way through the holes. Let's bend it just a little. Come on. Aha. And then you take the grommet and stuff the grommet through. There we have the grommet through. Put the grommet in the hole. That's the right size. Now it says to orient the LEDs the same direction on all of them. They have little, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but there's, I'm not sure what you call it, but you can see some lines through the lens. And I want them to disperse left and right as much as possible, so I'm going to put those lines up and down. That's just my guess. Push them in tight. Okay. I could probably get that in. Yeah, it's not popped quite all the way in, but it's there. So we'll take the second one. The grommet's pulled back. See if we can get that one through the hole. Yeah, gotta bend it a little more. There we go. And push its grommet through. Oh, get up there, grommet. There we go. And we'll put that grommet in the hole. And we'll put that light in the same orientation as the other one. Push. Yeah, they actually pop back in a little farther, but I think I'll take the heat gun and heat the plastic and the rubber up. That's something else they mentioned in the manual, is a little lubrication, or a little wetness, I think they called it. A little lubrication, a little heat helps them pop in. Let's see if we can get that one through. Maybe I have to bend it a little more too. Come on, pop in. Can't get my finger in to guide it any better. Well, we'll fight that a little bit. Oh, so close. There we go, that's through. Push the grommet through. Come on, grommet. And put the grommet in. And orient it the same direction. Let's see, we'll go that way with it. Looks pretty good. Okay, so we'll repeat the process on the other side. We'll get the heat gun out, we'll warm things up a little bit. Might even spray some water-soluble lube on them, and we'll get them to pop actually into that grommet. Okay, so I've got the heat gun out. I'm just going to warm the plastic. I'm sure not going to make it real hot. You know, heat, I'm sure, is the enemy of these LEDs, as it is with just about all electronics. So I'll get them twisted to exactly where I want them. And again, I'm just warming the plastic. I want the plastic as malleable as I can get it. So these things are going to be a tight fit. There's a little shoulder over the LED that actually pops under the rubber of the grommet. So, like I said, I just want them warm. I don't want them hot. That's warming them up pretty good right there. So what I had handy for a little bit of lubrication, a little bit of lemon pledge. Let's see if that'll lube it up enough that they'll slide in good. So we'll slide some lube around there. Holy cow, I think it popped in already. Maybe just the heat. No, that pledge is what did it. So we'll put a little pledge around this one. Still making sure they're twisted the way I want them. Yeah, that one hasn't quite popped in all the way. And one more down here. Get some of that excess pledge there. Oop, I twisted a little there. There we go. Let's see. Why? Didn't quite make it on the bottom two. Probably if I'd put pledge on the inside of the grommet, it would have been better. But they'll pop in, and if they don't, I know how to get them in. And lemon pledge is good to shine the plastic up and clean that up too. So how'd that come out? Yeah, I may lemon pledge the whole thing. We used to use that on the airplane's windshield. That was a good cleaner and wax for an airplane windshield instead of the expensive stuff. Okay, let's have a better look here now. Well, and I just noticed something else too. When I got some real bright light and my glasses on, these LEDs have top marked on them. I didn't know that, didn't see that in the instructions. So looks like I've got them all in the right plane, except for this one's got top up and these have top down. So I got to push them back out and start that over again. Okay, I've got the front all put back together now. There's how the lights come out. Let's get down to about how a driver might see them. And as you come around, they do disappear on you. If you've got the bumper on the front, they do disappear on you at about that angle. And then they come back into view about like that. You know, that's not really optimum, but you know, I guess I'll have to admit it is the best you can do without going to a motorcycle type turn signal with a stock that sticks them out a ways farther. There's the other side, and I think it all came out real well in the front here. Everything's dressed out nicely. I've got it all wire tied in. It doesn't touch any moving parts. It doesn't touch the radiator, I don't believe. It's pretty hard to tell down in here because you can't get your hand in there too closely, but yeah, I don't think they're touching the radiator. But kind of felt like high temp plastic anyway. I'm not going to worry about it too much. But everything looks pretty good. I'm happy with the way it's dressed out. And yeah, I really wished I would have taken the fenders off first and washed all this off, but I'll do that before I put the fenders back on it. But I think it all looks pretty good. I think my spacing for the LEDs come out real symmetrical. I don't see any problem there. I'm pretty proud of that. They come out okay on this side too. So the only thing I'm concerned about is that at about a 45-degree angle here they disappear, and that's not real optimum. It could be that I should have put one and had two together on top and maybe put one on the side over here. That would have improved the visibility, but that's what I've got so far. So next step in the instructions, for those of us without the X3 dash, you know, we have the standard trail and sport dash or instrument panel. They did give us some LEDs for signal indicator lights or idiot lights. Now we got to figure out where to put those. Let's see if I can hang this light here somewhere. So perhaps, see, here's the LEDs here. There's the connector for it and LEDs, and then grommets just like they gave for the actual signals. But I think, let's see. See, I kind of went cheap and just used the supplied button for the LED light out in front. In fact, you know, I've got no problem with that. It looks pretty good, but I think I'll put the LEDs maybe right next to it and over here in the same position. I think that'll work out just fine, and I can get my hand up there real easily, so that's where I'm going to drill and put them in. Okay.